Hey guys, welcome back to the AJ Analysis channel, where today we are previewing a Europa League game. Because I believe that this Europa League game is bigger than any other game in European competition so far this season. Yes, a game like PSG Bayern in the Champions League is big, and I will be covering that, so make sure to watch out for that video. However, this has that extra bit of something. This is historically two heavyweights, which are in the Europa League, a place where they don't want to be. These two teams both want to be at the top table, at the big table, eating with the best clubs in the Champions League. One way that they can do that is by winning the Europa League. In order to do that, they first need to knock each other out. One or the other has to go. So today we're going to be talking about how that can happen, what we might see, and particularly how Manchester United can hurt Barcelona. We've got a lot to get through in this video, so deep breath. We're ready. So before we actually get into that, I just quickly want to talk about the OneFootball app and some of the brilliant features that they have to offer. So let me just list through a few of them real quick. We've got player news, team news, player statistics, transfer news, league tables, match fixtures, just to name a few really good features which you can get on the OneFootball app. I use them all every week, but then of course, my favourite, highlights for the Serie A, and also a game which you can watch live for free on the app every single week. This week it is Inter against Udinese, which is another big game in Serie A which you can watch with a touch of a button on the app at literally zero cost. You really would be daft not to. If you want to check it out, then make sure to use the link in the description down below and download the OneFootball app today. Just quickly before we get into that, I realised the way that I've laid this page out, it looks like I'm next to Ten Hag and Xavi. I am not putting myself in the same bracket as them. If any of them want any advice for the game, they shouldn't go to me. But anyway, let's take a look at how I think Manchester United can win this game. So first things first, how do I think the game is going to play out? Well, I think Barcelona are going to have the ball. That is in Barcelona's history, and it's also in Xavi's history as a manager and as a player. He knows what Barcelona want to do, and under him this season they are a possession-based team. So I think that is the challenge that Ten Hag and Manchester United have to overcome. They have to face a game here where they probably aren't going to play the controlled football, the possession football that they want to. They are going to have to adapt. I think if they try go toe-to-toe with Barcelona in the possession-based style, I think they will be picked apart a little bit. So, how can Manchester United beat Barcelona? Well, the first thing they need to do is stop Barcelona playing their way. So you might think immediately the solution to that is to press high up the pitch. And don't get me wrong, I do like to see a high press from a top team, and it is something that long term I want United to do. However, I don't think they have the facility to do it in this game. The reason for that is because Barcelona will look to build in a 2-3-2-3 shape, with the fullbacks in line with Frenkie de Jong, and then Pedri and Kessie for providing the next line, and then the front three. The problem with this is Manchester United's usual pressing structure simply isn't good enough. So normally Weghorst is between the two centre-backs, we then have Rashford between the fullback and centre-back, and then Antony doing it on the other side. It does look like Antony will be missing from this game. If he's fit, I would play him, but if not, it will be Jadon Sancho. And for me, there is a fundamental issue with this pressing shape, and that is the fact that Barcelona have one of the top 3 goalkeepers in the world in terms of distribution in Ter Stegen. And Ter Stegen is more than happy to get the ball in these areas and just clip it out to the fullback. This has been a problem for Manchester United all season long, because teams are then able to step forward, the fullback is pushed backwards, the midfielder man for man, so the opposition fullbacks, Barcelona's fullbacks, would have way too much time on the ball. So in my opinion, Manchester United should not press using their usual structure. The alternative to that is to change their pressing shape and go more man for man, moving Rashford inside onto the centre-back, pushing the fullback up on this side, and basically going man for man and taking a little bit of a risk. You're leaving yourself 3 versus 3 at the back here, you're 3 versus 3 in the middle, and then 4 versus 4 across the back line here with Malacia and Sancho out wide. This is a pressing structure which Manchester United could use. I think long term this is a shape which they should try and adapt to. However, I just don't think away at the Nou Camp is the best time to experiment with a pressing shape, so I wouldn't use this either. With this in mind, I think Ten Hag is going to have to revert back to what he was doing at the start of the season, and that is asking his team not to press quite as high up the pitch. Yes, Ten Hag notoriously wants his side to press high and win the ball back, and United can do that on the counter press. However, when Barcelona are trying to build from the back, I simply don't think that Manchester United are currently good enough at pressing. So instead, if I was Manchester United, I would sit off into more of a mid-block shape. Have the solid back 4 and then have a 4-2-3-1 like this. Initially play in your normal shape. Let Barcelona play the ball out from the back and let their centre-backs have time on the ball. What Barcelona will look to do from here is actually build possession in a back 3, with Christensen, Koundé and Araujo forming the back 3, with Araujo on the right hand side. Now, typically they do this the other way around, Koundé and Araujo would swap, However, something that we've seen against Real Madrid is that Araujo gets moved to right back for those games to deal with Vinicius Jr. I think we're going to see the exact same thing here to try and deal with Marcus Rashford. And then from here, Barcelona build in what we call a 3-box-3. You've got Frankie de Jong and Kessie will form a double pivot. Pedri and Gavi will move inside from the left, which creates a box in the middle. Balde will push down the left-hand side, so you can see this front three he's now formed with Lewandowski and Rafinha. And this is the shape that Barcelona will look to use, and it's a really good shape. I really like it. I like teams that build possession in this 3-2, but they've also got this massive overload in the middle of the pitch, but also plenty of width. As a fundamental shape, it really is very nice. It ticks a lot of boxes, fills a lot of principles. So how do Manchester United stop it? Well, realistically, before Manchester United decide how to stop it, they need to decide what elements of it they are going to try and stop. Because Barcelona are so good at football, you can't stop literally everything, because if it was that easy, everyone would do it. So against Barcelona, you have to kind of look at what are their main strengths, what do they really want to do with this shape. So one of the things we can see is the wider centre-backs in a back three, which means if you play up against one striker, these centre-backs, have room to step forward with the ball. So that is one strength of this Barcelona system. The other strength is quite obvious, this box in midfield. Most teams in football play a midfield 3, which means if you can generate a box with 4 players, you are going to outnumber them. So for me, those are the 2 problems which Manchester United need to try and solve. The question is, how do you do it? Well, for me, you play in an aggressive mid-block 4-2-4 shape, with Bruno Fernandes pushing forward alongside Weghorst, and you play like this. Almost a bit of a similar principle to what Leeds done against Manchester United in both games. You kind of take some similar principles, and the idea for me is that you let the middle centre-back have the ball. You let Koundé have the ball in these areas, and try and cut off his options. I think if you go high and try and press him, then you leave yourself outnumbered in the middle of the park, which you don't want. So I think you let the middle centre-back have the ball, and basically then use the 2 wider centre-backs as the trigger. Now, why do you do that? Well, one is because Araujo is a very good ball carrier, very good at stepping forward. And the other reason is because Christensen is just very, very good on the ball. He kind of perhaps didn't get the plaudits he deserved at times at Chelsea in England. However, he's very, very good with the ball at his feet. Very progressive, key to the way that Barcelona build possession. He has one of the most touches for the team in almost every single game. So I think United need to stop that. And like I said, the way to do that is to play an aggressive 4-2-4 and then use these wider players as the trigger. So if Koundé has the ball, Manchester United aren't too fussed. However, the ball goes wide to Araujo. That is then when Rashford needs to step on. And that is when Manchester United can use that kind of as the trigger to then press. So Rashford can lock on here. For example, Bruno Fernandes might go on de Jong, Weghorst might squeeze up onto Koundé, Sancho on Kessie, and then Manchester United follow their players all over the park man for man. The idea being that Araujo now has no one he can pass to. Because Manchester United are man for man in all of these areas, and actually with this Manchester United lineup, you have quite a physical 11, quite a energetic 11, and quite a tenacious team. Even with Malacia at left back as opposed to Luke Shaw, you do add an extra bit of tenacity on the ball. And him against Rafinha will be an interesting battle, so will Fred against Pedri. These are going to be battles all over the pitch which Manchester United have to try and win, but I think using this wide pressing trigger could really work. And then if Barcelona recycle the ball backwards and go the other side, it then switches. Sancho then has to engage, Bruno has to shift across, and then Rashford has to drop in. This is the way for Manchester United to stop Barcelona progressing the ball. It looks really simple, and in a sense it is. It requires a lot of work from the Manchester United players. This will not be an easy task. However, I think it's work that they can do. We saw Leeds do it to Manchester United twice, and Manchester United, as we saw, really struggled in those games. So I think Manchester United can take the same principles and do it to Barcelona. Now, if this is the case, then there will be situations where Barcelona work the ball forward. That is inevitable, because this is a really good side. They are going to have moments where they get the ball forward, because technically they have a lot of quality. From here, the work rate of the midfield too is going to be really, really important. Fortunately, Manchester United have Casemiro and Fred, 2 players who know each other very, very well, but also 2 players that have high work rate. The important thing for me is going to be their ability to track runners. We know that Pedri will want to go into an area like this at times, Fred has to follow that run, and Casemiro has to cover the space in front. And of course, if it happens down the other side as well, Casemiro has to follow the runs of Gavi, whilst Fred covers the middle of the pitch. This Manchester United shift is going to have to be very, very good, basically. They're going to have to work really hard. However, I think that by using this shape, you can force Barcelona backwards. So just go over it one more time real quick. This aggressive 4-2-4. You're letting the middle centre-back have the ball and basically saying, you can't progress it because we've got everyone man marked. As soon as the ball goes wide, we know that letting the ball go wide is an easier way of pressing it, because what you can do is use it as the trigger to go, And now, this player has no players to pass to, basically. And this is the way that Manchester United can contain Barcelona. That's what this is all about. Containing Barcelona in this area. This is where Manchester United should want the game to be played. Let Barcelona have the higher possession stats, but try and win the ball back in these areas. Because we know that if Manchester United can win the ball in these areas, they're one of the best transitioning teams in world football, if not the best. With Bruno Fernandes's ability on the ball, his pass selection, Weghorst's link play, and then of course Marcus Rashford. And I for one cannot wait for this battle. Marcus Rashford up against Araujo in this wide area is going to be so good. Araujo has done a brilliant job up against Vinicius Jr. over the past 12 months or so. Rashford is a different test because Rashford provides a bit more physicality, perhaps a little less skill. Going to be really interesting to see. Rashford's one of the most informed players in the world. Araujo for me is one of the most underrated defenders. This is going to be a really good battle. However, I do think it's a good way for United to play the game. Have Barcelona force them backwards into these areas, and then try and win the ball and play in these transitions. Now, of course, that is one way that Manchester United can defend and then turn it into an attack. However, we know Ten Hag, he wants his team to have possession. So what we've now done is flip the pitch on its head, because Manchester United will want spells on the ball. The problem is, they're going to really struggle to get it in this game, because Barcelona will be very aggressive in a 4-4-2 shape for a couple of reasons. One, this is how they always play. They want to play in that way. They want to press high and win the ball back, so they get the ball back, have more possession. The other reason is because they will know full well that Manchester United really are not very good under pressure in terms of being man-marked, put in press-resistant situations. They don't have the players for it. Particularly with players like David De Gea, who's woeful on the ball, Fred, who's not good receiving the ball with his back to play or under pressure. Barcelona are surely going to use that as a reason to press Manchester United super high. And they will do it near enough man for man in a 4-4-2. We'll see Gavi and Rafinha pushing high from the wings. We'll see the fullbacks pushing the wingers all the way back like so. We'll see the midfielders, Kessie and Frenkie de Jong, matching up with Manchester United. And then we'll see the centre-backs being aggressive on Bruno Fernandes and Weghorst. And basically, the plan will be, don't give the Manchester United players an option on the ball. De Gea here, for example, De Gea isn't even being pressed, but we know De Gea is not going to pick a pass to a single player here, simply because he can't do it. I was talking about Ter Stegen earlier, how he does have that ability to pick a pass. David De Gea simply doesn't. So, this is a real problem for Manchester United. Now, what typical big teams would do is drop one of their midfielders in, get them on the turn and play out from the press. Manchester United simply can't do that. They don't have the players to play through the press. This is where United have a real problem, because you can't just play through a press with a random tactic. You don't have press-resistant players. It's just not going to work against a team as good as Barcelona. Against someone like Leeds, you can maybe get away with it because the quality is a little bit lower. Barcelona are very good. They're one of the best defensive teams in the world at the moment. In La Liga, they've conceded so few goals this season. I don't know how Manchester United can play through this. And personally, I'll be honest, I don't think they can. Therefore, the solution has to be more direct. We saw Bayern Munich do it to Barcelona earlier in the season in the Champions League group stages. For me, that is the way that Manchester United have to play. They've got to go direct to Weghorst and pin Weghorst on Christensen. Christensen's a good defender on the ball, however, aerially, he's not so great. I'm not saying he's bad at it, but it's not his strength, and he is the weakest of some of these defenders in these aerial duels. Manchester United have to go along to Weghorst, from where his hold-up play does have to be a lot better than what it was against Leeds, because what this would allow United to do is bypass the press, get behind the press. Then you can lay balls off to Bruno Fernandes, who needs to be good getting on those second balls, and then Fernandes needs to have one of his good games where he makes the right decision and picks the right passes. Because if Rashford can make this run from out to in, Manchester United can certainly cause problems. However, I don't know, I think playing through the press is going to be difficult. I think United have to go long, bypass it, and basically sacrifice possession a little bit. Now, this isn't something which Ten Hag will want to do. We know that he loves his side to have a lot of the ball. However, I do think in a game like this, he will be willing to make the exception and make the sacrifice. We saw it very early in the season against teams like Liverpool and Arsenal. He let them have the ball at times. I think Manchester United are going to have to do that for their own good. I think, again, going toe-to-toe is asking for trouble. However, despite that, Manchester United will naturally have spells where they have the football, because when you have technical footballers in your team, they have this ability, someone like Jadon Sancho for example, to just hold the ball up for your team. Bruno Fernandes can bring others into play. So Manchester United naturally will have spells of the game where they have possession, and in these situations I do think they can do some damage to Barcelona, because if Manchester United use their 3-1-6 shape up against Barcelona's pressing 4-4-2, which has now been forced a little bit deeper but they keep the same shape, I think it just asks questions of Barcelona which they don't typically get asked. This isn't a shape in terms of the 3-1-6 of Manchester United, or the 3-1-5-1, or the 3-1-3-3, whatever you want to call it. This isn't a shape which Barcelona are used to dealing with, so I think Manchester United can hurt them using it, and there's a few reasons for this. One of the reasons is because if Barcelona have a front two, Manchester United's back three plus the Casemiro role in front can quite comfortably outnumber that, which means the wider players here, Dalot and Luke Shaw, which ideally they're both fullbacks, means that they can now step forward with the ball and progress. What does this mean from here? It means that United can progress the ball in wide areas, and for me, this could be where Manchester United win the battle. The reason I think United could be good in these areas is because it's allowing this wide progression, and we know that Manchester United excel in wide combinations. Whether it's down the left-hand side or the right, United are very good in these positions. Particularly the left though, with Malacia and Rashford taking it in turns to sometimes invert, sometimes be wider, with Shaw stepping forward to progress the ball and then firing passes through the lines, with Fred also creating the overload depending on what side the ball goes. I think this is where Manchester United can really hurt Barcelona, because again I just think it asks a question of them which they're not used to being asked. They're not used to having to sit back in games, they don't want to. So I think you have to ask that question of them. Again, this battle between Rashford and Araujo will be quite interesting, but also I think down the right hand side as well. Sancho looks reinvigorated since returning to the squad, he looks very good, but also if Bruno Fernandes can get in this right pocket, up against Frenkie de Jong, who is a very good footballer. Everyone knows I'm a big fan of him, and I desperately want him at Manchester United. However, defensively, he is not the best. He's not a player which wants to sit in this 4-4-2 low block and shuttle from side to side and pick up markers and push players about. It's not what he wants to do. I think if Bruno Fernandes can get in and around him in these pockets of space behind him, that's where Manchester United can have some real success. So yes, Rashford on the other side, we know how big a threat he is. He will be one of the main men for Manchester United if they are to have any luck. However, Bruno Fernandes, if he can get in this right pocket, I think behind Frenkie de Jong, that's a slight weakness in this system. Whether it's Kessie on the other side even, it could be Kessie. However, still, I think that is something which Bruno Fernandes can expose, because again, I just don't think he's very good. This is what I would be using if I was Manchester United. And then once in these wide areas, I think they need to utilise crosses. Again, it's not a question which Barcelona are asked too often. Weghorst against Koundé in the air is a big mismatch. We've already pointed out the fact that Weghorst against Christensen is not a battle that Christensen is going to want. Why not put some crosses into the box? We've even seen that Rashford can be a threat in these situations as well. So if the ball can come in from the right hand side, from Sancho or Bruno Fernandes, then both Rashford and Weghorst are going to be threats in the box. For me, this is again something which Manchester United have to try. Overall, I think this game is going to be super entertaining for the neutral. It's going to be a real tactical chess battle between the two. There's a chance the game really opens up and produces a lot of goals. There's also a chance it's very tight and cagey. However, either way, I do think it will be very entertaining. From a Manchester United point of view and a Ten Hag point of view, the way that they approach this game is very important. For me, the strategy is not to high press. I think that 4-2-4 aggressive mid-block is the way forward, allowing the middle centre-back to have the ball and then using the wider centre-backs as the trigger point to then trigger the press, force Barcelona backwards, and that's where you can produce turnovers. Now yes, Barcelona will have spells where they can play through that. Manchester United are going to have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. They're going to have to win their battles in the midfield. Casemiro and Fred will be very important. But if they can win the ball in those areas, they can then transition. In terms of in general possession, I do think Manchester United will struggle to build from the back, simply because the Barcelona press is very good, and the Manchester United play out in the first phase is subpar. It's really not good enough to beat a team like Barcelona. Therefore, I think the strategy is to play long to Weghorst, get on that second ball, get on the knockdown, and again, turn it into a transition-based game. Despite that, Manchester United will have spells where they are good in possession. They will have some sustained spells on the ball. For me, the thing to do then is play in a 3-1-6 shape or a 3-1-3-3 shape. Get the ball with the wider fullbacks or the centre-backs stepping forward with the ball, creating those wider overloads, getting Rashford and Bruno Fernandes on the ball, and then maybe work some crosses. We also know that the combination play in and around the box can also be quite good from this Manchester United team. So I think there are certainly ways which Manchester United could win this game. However, either way, it's going to be a great clash. I'm really looking forward to it. Of course, I will cover it on the channel, so make sure to subscribe with notifications on so you don't miss that. I think that's everything. Deep breath at the start of the video, another deep breath now. It's going to be such a good game, but I guess now it's over to you guys. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. What are your predictions? Who do you think will win? What would your starting 11 be for each team? Just a bit of everything really. Let me know what you would be doing. What do you think of my approach? All of that, get in the comment section down below and let me know. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you have enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed the match on Thursday, and I'll see you in the next one.